Guys, it's Lost in Plot, and today we have The Matrix Resurrections.
The original Matrix film, arguably a sci-fi classic.
Well, definitely a sci-fi classic. It had a profound impact on culture for a decade and then kind of faded from memory in the 2000s, but now it's back.
That's right, it's a reboot sequel kind of deal. The Matrix Resurrections is the fourth in the saga. So what do we think about this one?
Well, I think I'd prefer The Matrix had stayed away. I think what they had here was the germination of an idea for how they could potentially bring it back that might have made sense. They had a setup, and I don't think it went any farther than that in the brainstorming sessions. A setup and nothing else.
Yeah, now the Wachowski brothers did the original Matrix and that trilogy, of course. Now this one is just Lana Wachowski, no longer a brother. She's coming back and doing this all on her own. And I, for the most part, agree with you. I feel like they might have been better off leaving this alone. They came close. I'll give them that. They came close. I thought they had a somewhat clever idea for getting us back into the story. So the way it's set up is we're focusing on Thomas Anderson, and he is a game designer, and he designed a very successful game franchise called The Matrix. And everything about this video game are all the plot and story beats from the original Matrix trilogy.
Right, this is a very plausible way to reinsert Thomas Anderson back into the Matrix after the first three films, to make him think that it was all just this elaborate fiction that his mind created. So any memory or reverberation of what had happened in the past could be attributable to his game design.
And it is very meta, which is a word I hate using and generally hate in practice with most of these films, because a lot of it in the first act is this back and forth about, well, how do we do a sequel to the Matrix trilogy? How do we bring it back and get back to bullet time and everything that made that original saga so popular? And it's kind of soaked in this in the first act, and that's not as compelling as kind of getting under the surface to say, well, what are we talking about? Was the original Matrix trilogy all just this guy's video game, or are we back in a new Matrix, or what's real and what's not? Which is good, because that's what the first film had, and now it's kind of reestablished that question about, well, what is the Matrix, and is this a real reality or not?
Yeah, and the second half of the first act, they have this montage where it's about game design. We want a sequel to The Matrix, and Thomas Anderson is just sitting at a round table with all these other executives or game developers, and they're bouncing ideas off each other, and they're saying, what was The Matrix? What has it become? What is most iconic about it? What do people want? And it's a bit of a satirical look at, hey, how do we make films today? What do we really think audiences care about? And how do we smash together these Frankenstein monsters and give you something that it somewhat resembles art when really it's powered by commerce?
And all the people in his life are seen as characters from the first Matrix. There's his boss at the video game studio, which is kind of like Agent Smith. He's got a new therapist played by Neil Patrick Harris. And then, of course, there's Trinity, whose actual name is Tiffany, and she's married with a couple kids.
But you can dress it up any which way you want. We're still going to follow mainly the same plot beats from the original Matrix. We've got a different setup, but when we break into the second act, the whole idea is, hey, are you going to take the red pill, or are you going to take the blue pill, and how far does the rabbit hole go?
And I'm on board. I'm going with this through the first act. I'm saying, okay, I like these familiar beats, but we're moving in a new direction. I don't know whether this is real or whether you're saying it was all just a video game. But then we get back to the real world, which in this film is called I.O.
I.O., like an input-output thing in a computer or something like that.
And this is where everything just tanks. And it all tanks with one character. I don't know, her name is Naomi?
Niobe.
Niobe,
I believe is what it was.
The Niobe character, for me, sinks the entire film. She just flat out kills it for me, because she has the unenviable task of not only making sure that you understand that original Matrix trilogy, it mattered. We're not all the way back to zero. Everything that happened in that first trilogy, it was real, and it mattered. You better believe it mattered. So she's got to come in with this giant exposition dump to link everything up with the original trilogy and get us to where we're at today. And she is boring as shit. And not only that, this is a horrible performance.
Oh, by far. This is a soul-crushing exposition sequence. If you suffer from insomnia, bookmark this scene in this film and just play it to yourself while you're laying in bed.
Every scene with her.
Absolutely knock you out. It will absolutely knock you out. And for me, the big problem that I had with this film is after the setup was, well, what's really compelling us forward? What is our big goal? What are we trying to do now that we've kind of reconciled the world of the Matrix and kind of taken this uneasy peace or stance or stasis with the forces of the Matrix and the people that are inserted in it? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to awaken everybody again? I think there's probably an angle where you could say, hey, look, these days, with everybody glued to their cell phone and their device, most people would probably rather just be in the Matrix and make it whatever it is that they want rather than live in a reality with facts and truth.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point because they say a lot in this film that the truth sets you free, right? The truth will set you free, and the truth is facts. And the whole point of this is the choice that everybody has, is we want to give everybody that's locked in the Matrix a choice. Do you want to choose the world that you've created for yourself, this safe, reassuring, protective world, or do you want to choose facts and truth and the real world and the red pill? That's what we're talking about, the message for this Matrix, and I like it. I think it's a very timely, suitable message, so I was on board with that too. But I can't get past Niobe, and it was Jada Pinkett Smith, whatever, and they made her to look like a really old woman, and she tries to talk like an old woman, and it's just horrendous. It's just garbage. Oh, so bad. So bad. So they get to the third act, and they try and save it, and they nearly do. But I'll tell you what. If you go back and you re-edit this film and you cut out Niobe, everything to do with Niobe, cut her out, you'd have a halfway decent film. You might have gotten there.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have a film because Niobe exists for an important reason in this filmmaker's mind.
I could do without it.
Well,
I didn't care about any of it. I could do without it.
All right, so there you have it. What do you think as far as, obviously Neo has a motivation. He wants to rekindle his relationship with Trinity, and that's more of his main goal. What do you think is driving the rest of it and what they want to do with the Matrix, what their goal is for it, how they want to change it?
I think they want to examine what I was just talking about, and the whole point of it is the choice. There's a good argument to say, hey, all these people that are plugged in and in their fantasy worlds, they might be happier there. They might be comfortable. They might be at ease, and they might prefer that rather than going through the real struggles, the real adversity of the real world. So at the very least, they should be given the choice. And I think that's what the real point of bringing the Matrix back and diving into it again is. Give these people the choice and understand that some may not choose the red pill. They may like that blue pill and just keep them exactly where they are.
And I think that's a profound insight that it doesn't push quite as far as it needs to, which I think that most people, when push comes to shove, I think you could easily take the position that most people are going to pick to rather live in their bubble where they can make alternate realities to suit them, as opposed to live in a world...
Especially nowadays.
Yeah, and as opposed to living in a world that's crushed by facts and realities and history and everything else that they would rather do without. These these inconveniences, right? We want to live in our safe bubble that's curated to our tastes and our sensibilities rather than have to deal with harsh realities and the lessons that we've learned over time.
Yeah, and I'll say that some of the effects that they bring back are really cool. You've seen most of them in the trailer, unfortunately. There's some really cool new developments. I liked Swarm Mode. I thought that was a cool trick that they did. So you're going to get some of that. You're going to get everybody wearing the black sunglasses for some reason, which I don't think we needed to bring that back.
It's not cool anymore.
That's
for sure.
It's not cool anymore.
It's not cool. It hasn't aged well.
No. But where does this put it? Let's get to our Dead or Alive for the Matrix Resurrections.
You know, for me, it's coming down at a 5 out of 10, and it's dead. It's not something I'll revisit because it's too goddamn boring. When push comes to shove, it's too boring. There's some interesting ideas. I saw reasons for the film to exist that it could have potentially capitalized, but it didn't realize it. And the result is kind of this middling mess that I'd rather not partake in again.
Fair enough. It's dead for me too. I'm down a little bit lower at a 4 out of 10. Now, I wouldn't be against a sequel and continuing the story if you promise me you're going to cut out Niobe and all of that horseshit there. Just get rid of all of it, and I'll be on board, and I'll be a lot more interesting. Now, the problem with the original Matrix trilogy was as soon as they kind of unplugged into this cold, gray, broken world, it was just boring as shit. So boring. There was nothing there. It was uninteresting. So maybe they made it a little bit more interesting in this film. Maybe they could fix that going forward. But this one is dead for me. I'm not wholly against any more sequels or continuing the story. Well, we'll see how it does. Guys, if you've seen The Matrix Resurrections, let us know your thoughts and comments down below. Check us out on Twitter, like and subscribe, and we will see you all on the next one.